So in Georgia, if you own property and you have a deed and you pass away, number one, did you own it jointly with rights of survivorship with someone else? If you did, then that whole property is theirs. Because if you own property jointly with rights of survivorship with someone, what that means is that you each own 100% of that property. And if one of you passes away, the other continues to own 100% of that property. Now, what if your deed just has John and Jan Smith and nothing else? Then what that means is that you own it as tenants in common. And what that means is that each of you own 50% of that property. And if one of you passes away, the other 50% has to pass through their estate. So if you have a will or no will, it's going to pass through probate court. And then the probate court will decide what happens to that asset. If you do not have a will, the state law says that it will be split equally amongst your spouse and your kids. And so your 50% might end up having your kids on the deed of that house if your spouse does not file for your support. There's a lot of what ifs in this case. We don't exactly know what's going to happen, and we've seen it all. It all depends on some random judge that may or may not actually be an attorney. So if you don't have a will and your property is owned jointly, but not jointly with rights of survivorship, your 50% is going to end up in probate court. If you just own a property by yourself and you don't have a will, then it's going to go to your legal heirs. Again, if you're married with kids, it's going to be split equally between them, with your spouse inheriting no less than 1/3. If you don't have kids, it will go to your spouse. If you don't have kids or a spouse, it's going to go to your parents, if not your parents, your siblings, if not your siblings, your nieces and nephews. So it is very important to have a will and make sure that your property goes to who you want it to go to. But the gold standard, platinum, whatever you want to call it, is to have a living trust. This way, we can retitle your property or your interest in the property into the name of the living trust, and then it will pass outside of probate to whoever you want it to go to. So instead of them having to probate it and put a notice in the newspaper and wait 90 days and do all that shenanigans, it's going to pass as soon as your trustee has a death certificate, and then whoever the beneficiary is can do whatever they need to do with it. Sell it, start renting it, do an estate sale, whatever they need to do. Ideally, in a perfect world, a living trust, making sure your property avoids probate court, best case scenario. Now, if it's investment property, maybe an LLC makes more sense, but we still need that living trust to assign the LLC to avoid probate court. The LLC is asset protection, it's liability protection, it's making sure that if you get sued from that rental property, it doesn't affect the rest of your estate. But it doesn't avoid probate in and of itself. So we still need that living trust piece to make sure your family avoids court and conflict.